You're the important one. It doesn't matter if you hear us over here.
Don't let my wife hear that. It's been 5 minutes. Okay, have everybody go ahead and take their seats. Entertain a motion to go back into regular session.
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? We are back into regular session. Please keep the sidebar conversations down. Thank you very much. I'd like to bring up the point, we have our cameras back now, so we will have the rest of the meeting recorded. Entertain a motion to go into drainage board.
I move we go into drainage board.
Is there I have a motion and a second. Further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? We are now in drainage board. First item on the agenda, item number 11, Dave Sternhagen drainage permit. Is there anybody who would like to speak on this topic? Welcome, sir. Come on up and state your name for the record. Tell us about your project.
My name is Nick Sternhagen. This project is going to take place a mile east of Utica. We own a quarter of ground up there. It currently has tile across it. I don't know if you want to pull up a map, or you guys have the map? You do? Okay. The current tile goes across it diagonally to the southwest corner. It was put in the 20s. We'd like to upgrade that. The outlet, though, it currently outlets on the northeast side, about 100 or so feet from a gentleman's property. He's getting water issues in his basement. We think some of that is because of the water draining there. We would like to move it over to 304, which is Utica Oil, straight to the north. We'd be moving it maybe about 400 feet. The water goes there anyway. We've talked to Mike. He seemed to be fine with it. We sent out our letters. Had a few people who were a little concerned. I know Bob Chops on the Utica Township. He might want to talk to you about it. And with people's concerns, we decided to maybe make the ditches a little bit better. Not so much for our project, but because of the rains we've had the last year or so, we've had a lot of flooding down the ditches. We got together. There's 7 of us, and we're going to clean the ditch on the west side of, I think it's 436, for a mile. And we would then put in a diagonal culvert to help divert some of the water to the east. Also, we would clean out the ditch on 304th going east all the way to the blue line. There's 3 culverts that are under the 304 that go to the north, and we would like to put partial blocks on those. We've talked to Mike about all that. I think he's okay with that. All the landowners that are adjacent to any of this are all in agreement and are helping to finance that. I have an agreement signed by the 7 people, if you would like to see that.
Sure, if you have it, I guess.
Yeah.
I'd like to see it if you have it. Thank you, sir. Did you want to say this?
No, I'm good.
Any other questions for Mr. Sternhagen?
I think an important thing to point out about this project is they have a vested drainage right on this property that already goes into the public right-of-way.
Yeah.
So it is not like we're taking a quarter of land and all of a sudden we're putting it into the public right-of-way.
Correct, yes.
It's already there. And the township is working closely, and all of the landowners in that area have a plan in place. Now, did you mention the ditch going north?
Yes, the north ditch on the west side is going to be cleaned out, as well as
Okay.
that diagonal culvert to help divert some of the water to the east ditch.
Yep, as it stands right now, I would venture to say there's water in that ditch almost all year round right now.
Yes, well, and actually Newt had said here, when we got that inch of rain, water actually came up out of the ditch and was flooding one of his fields.
Yep.
So this would help to alleviate a lot of that.
Yep.
Do you have anybody else who wants to speak on this project?
I think, Bob, would you like to
Okay.
speak on it?
Anybody else care to speak on this project? Now would be the time to do so. Welcome, please state your name for the record.
Bob Chop, Supervisor for Utica Township. The Utica Township is in favor of this project. That they're at that intersection. There's water there that drains from the houses that are just a little ways south of the intersection. They're pumping, more or less year-round. And in the wintertime, it gets froze there at the intersection where it runs, and there's a culvert there that's plugged up. The township will be replacing a culvert with this project. We need more water flow, and we're in favor of this project. There was concern of the amount of water, with the water flow and everything. Everybody came together, expressed their concerns, developed a plan that's going to work. It's a plan that's going to be taking us well into the future with our water drainage infrastructure. And, if we don't do this, we're going to continue to have problems at that intersection. And, it's going to have to be fixed sometime. We have landowners that want to do this. They're taking it upon themselves to pay for it because Utica Township doesn't have the money to pay for it. And, when we have these people behind us to do it, I think it's a done deal. We need to make it a go.
All right. Thank you very much. Anyone else care to speak on this topic? Now would be the time to do so. Anybody? Going once? Going twice? All right, I'll go ahead and close public comment. Mike, did you have anything you wanted to address on this? Come on up here a second. You didn't see any issues with anything on these roads?
No, I think how they're planning on doing it'll work pretty good. I think just impressive, all the landowners getting together, and
Yeah.
the way it's being planned, I think is a good thing.
All right.
Have you signed an easement or a occupancy or anything for that 304? Or do we need to? What do you typically do when we go into a county ditch?
That I will have to check into. I don't think it is an issue,
Okay.
but I will check into that.
Bob, what's the township usually do?
There will be an easement that Brian is going to be drawing up. Is that correct, Brian?
Right, I'm trying to determine the correct instrument, whether it's an easement or some access. Once we do, an easement would be cleanest, that's generally crossing private property, but we'll come up with something to make it legitimate to go across.
And the township will be signing that, when it's presented.
Right. Yeah, and I don't want to hold the project up. I just want to make sure that we just get everything wrapped up.
All right, I'll turn the discussion over to the board. You guys have any more questions for the applicant? Any more questions for the applicant?
No questions. Just a comment, though. In the course of discussions on this, they are putting partial blocks on 3 of the culverts that go from south to north underneath the paved highway. And we did discuss that if there's ever a problem with it backing up so much that we potentially go over the road and such, that those blockages would be removed. So, and everybody was in agreement with that, and I think it probably needs to be on the record somewhere to see how it goes. I don't foresee anything ever being a problem with that, but you never know when you're going to get 10 inches of rain these days.
Sure. So is that part of the agreement, or was that they will take care of the blocks then, or?
Blocks are part of the contract that we've got with a group of us, and we'll all
Yep.
monitor it.
Yep.
Because if water gets too high, it's going to affect one of the people involved.
Yep,
So we're all working together to make sure that that's done.
yep, so.
Any other questions from anyone on the board about this project? Anyone? Entertain a motion then.
That was part of that
Was-
was part of their agreement there,
What's that?
the maintaining of it.
Okay.
Not maintaining of it, though. I mean, there's nothing in our contract about maintaining it. Well, we will watch it, and what needs to be done, then we'll make that decision at that point.
Okay.
Nick, you want to come
I
back
think
up?
that's fair.
Come back up if.
Adjoining landowners today aren't responsible for maintaining that
Right. Yep.
ditch, so.
Yeah.
You know, I think the hardest part is going to be the first, I would say, 2 to 3 years because of erosion issues. When you disturb that, you go in and level it off and try to reseed that or whatever. That's going to be the critical time.
Yeah.
So, but Joe's exactly right, long-term, technically, the counties are responsible for the ditch.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. Any other questions from anyone on the board? Bob, you had a question? Yeah, come on up if you got one.
I just wanted to say that as far as the maintaining of this total project, you know, I think it's probably fair to say that these ditches were probably made 80 years ago, 100 years ago, and it's probably fair to say they've never been maintained since. And it's taken this long for them to get into the shape that they are. If or when it does happen again that they should get plugged or something, you know, I'm sure these landowners, whoever they are going to take it amongst themselves to do the same thing, because I can't imagine the township or the county is going to have any more money 100 years from now than they do now. And, you know, when it's affecting their property, they're going to get behind it and say, well, we got to do this, and they're going to get it done. You know, here you have this group of people who took it upon themselves, they met, they devised a plan, it's workable. You know, you're not dealing with people in Washington. You know, these are good people that are going to get things done.
Thank you.
There also might be a ditch,
Sorry.
years ago, a ditch assessment. Some of those old ditches, there was on the tax. Just have to, you know, which one it is. If it is, you know, it has one.
Did you have something, Don?
I just wanted to thank you guys for taking the initiative to address the problem, find a solution, and take action. Thank you.
All right, any other questions for Nick? All right, entertain a motion.
I move approval of the drainage permit.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Is there further discussion? Did you have something, Joe?
I guess I was gonna ask if you'd mind amending that, Don, to contingent upon the, whatever the solution is for the easement between the township and the
county.
The ditch right-of-ways. I think we can approve the project today, but prior to the permit being issued, I think we need to have something in place there.
Yeah, I would agree. I know
I'll
that's.
approve the amendment.
Okay, so you're amending your motion, or restate your motion then, Don. You're approving it on the condition that they get what was it,
An easement.
an easement agreement with the township?
Agreement with the township,
With the county.
county.
With the county, okay. I have a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Is there further discussion? Roll call vote, please.
Don,
Yes.
Sherry,
Yes.
Joe,
Yes.
Gary,
Yes.
Dan.
Yes, motion passed. Entertain a motion to go out of Drainage Board and into regular session.
So moved.
Second.
Motion and a second. Further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? We're back into regular session now. Next item on the agenda, item number 12, Dakota Rail Park subdivision plat. See, we have, did you want to speak on this? Come on up. State your name for the record. Right here.
Matt Winsan, CEO of Dakota Plains. Just looking to do another lot at the Dakota Plains Rail Park for this young gentleman here, and I'll let him explain the project.
I'm Brett Kleinschmidt with Antelope Creek Wildlife and Ponds, and We'll be, I guess we're looking at putting up like a 60 by 120 building for equipment storage and supply storage is I guess the main goal of the project there, so.
Explain a little bit your business, please.
So we specialize in managing and developing fish and wildlife populations and habitats. We do a lot on plant a lot of CRP trees, shelter belts, plant food plots for guys. We do, not just on private property, but we do work with Game and Fish, Corps of Engineers, and other government agencies as well. So.
Thank you.
Yep.
The 60 by 100 building you said,
Yeah.
is that cold storage or is it heated? And
No, just the initial plan right now is just going to be just a shell of the building put up. I mean,
Just like
at
a
some
cold
point
building.
it might be down the road, might be insulated and stuff, but just right now it's just a
no bathrooms, septic tank or anything?
not initially in the plans at the moment, but we're still working on some of the plans. So, yeah,
So just it's cold storage?
yeah.
Yeah, and it's just a plat at this point too, so. All right, any other questions from the board? All right, thank you. Turn to the commission, any discussion? Entertain a motion.
I'll move approval of the Dakota Rail subdivision plat.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passed. Next item on the agenda, item number 13, Yankton County Roads and Bridges with Clark Engineering. Welcome.
Good evening.
Just the middle one usually. That's the best we can do, it seems like.
I'll put everybody to sleep. So we're here tonight to talk about the township bridges. Josh is pulling up PowerPoint. Adam Polly, who's normally here, his son has his first T-ball game tonight. So I think he's a helping coach or something. So he sent his regrets for not being able to be here. Josh, who you guys have probably seen before, is going to take his part going through explaining the details of the bridges. As we go through them, we're going to be talking about the township bridges tonight. I think we'll probably be about a half hour again, Mr. Chairman. If we get long, give me the signal. So there were 33 bridges on township roads. If you recall, we had quite a discussion on the Jim River bridges for a while. We've talked about the other county bridges. These are the township bridges. You can see, it looks like about over 50% of them are in good condition.
Can everybody see okay, or do you want the lights dimmed a little bit? Everybody fine with that?
Dim them a little bit. I think we're hearing a couple.
Everybody go to sleep now.
Does that do it enough?
Try the other one and leave this one on back here.
How's that?
Oh, that's better.
One more, we're gonna be in the dark. And then there's 3 of them in what we would consider poor condition. So the conditions are not necessarily very bad, but of those 33 bridges, 17 of them are posted, which is not surprising. A lot of the township bridges were built real light, less expensive bridges, and sometimes those are posted. So I think the 17 posted bridges is pretty much what we're going to go through and do that kind of quick synopsis for you guys, and Josh will take us through that. That will cover all of the fair condition and poor condition bridges and a few of the actual good condition bridges as well. So we'll let Josh take us through that.
All right, as Kevin said, my name is Josh. Yeah, we'll be going through those 17 posted structures tonight that are on the township roads. We'll start with this one. It's a 34.5-foot single-span steel girder. Notice it's on a minimum maintenance road, and our recommendation at the bottom, we put or closure. We never want it to come to that, but the minimum maintenance roads usually have the least ADTs, so we put that on there. You know, it's an option. We sometimes have to put into play. This one was built in 1940, 7 miles north, 0.1 miles west of Vollen, and sufficiency rating is 29. These are, again, the two pictures we take of every structure, profile and alignment. You see it's old, deterioration, 80 years old, it'll happen. And it looks like it's currently posted at 1814, and we're gonna leave it posted at 1814, continue to be there. And if I'm going too fast, if you have any questions, just let me know. Next one, 0.1 miles south, 7 miles west of Irene. It's a 30-foot single-span steel girder again, which is what a lot of these are. And the sufficiency rating is 31.2. And you just see the underside of the deck's just weathered, it's old.
Is this that one that was replaced recently? Mike? Go back.
I'd have to look at a map.
7 west of Irene and then we just south.
I think that's getting replaced as we speak. I think.
Yep,
That's
that's the
okay.
mile east
Got
of
that one
Mayfield.
taken
Yep, check that one out.
That's the one that, yeah.
Yeah. Okay, well, we'll move on through that one then. The next one, 3.5 miles north of Ullen. It was built in 1930. It's a 51.5 single span steel girder. Sufficiency rating 32.2. You can see
So
we-
what, in your opinion, what makes a difference between scheduled for repair and replacement or closure?
So we add the closure when the ADT's smaller, and make that more of an option. So the minimum maintenance roads, I think there's 3 of them on this list. That's where we added the or closure. I'm not through there.
Has nothing to do with safety?
No, none of these have to do with safety. When we post them, it has to do with, well, we'll close them. If the safety issue is an issue, we'll just close it immediately in our inspection.
Your closure is, it would either be replacement or closure, I think. Abandonment versus, you're not speaking closure as in this is dangerous, we need to shut
Correct.
it down. It's,
Yeah.
okay.
I'm
As a
saying-
replacement tool, basically choosing that you're not gonna replace it, that you're probably gonna close it. It's at the end of its service life, so it's kind of time to make that decision. If it's a minimum maintenance road and the local farmers, you know, it's always a convenience to somebody, but if it weren't needed,
It seems to me like if you put the recommendation that it be replaced or closed, it ought to be closed.
as Josh said, if we would, to this point, we inspected these last summer. If we felt like one was unsafe and it needed to be closed, we'd have been on the phone with Brian at the time, but with Mike, and saying, hey, we need to come out and take a look at this one. We'd probably be in front of you guys if we needed to do an immediate repair or something like that. Happens from time to time. But these are not that. These are just 70, 80-year-old bridges that time's up. We got to figure out what we're going to do. We're either going to have to, you know, try to do an inexpensive pipe replacement or something, or maybe just take it out if it's something that could work.
It's more or less a planning tool. In our next cycle, 2 years from now, when we inspect this again, we'll figure out then we might need to close it then. It's just something that, you know, to be aware of. It's an option for the future.
It's really always an option when they're minimum maintenance roads.
I
We
guess
just sort
it's
of
a
put it
red
out there.
flag to me when the engineer says it should be maybe closed.
But the context of us saying that is we're saying that as a replacement option. There is the option to just take it out and not replace it.
I understand what you're saying though too, is when you see the word closure, red flags come up.
Are you guys involved, like this bridge, the 68229-081 that was replaced, were you guys involved in that process?
Did we do hydraulics
Yeah,
on that
did
one
we
like a
do-
year or so ago?
Because from what we understand, like, and maybe Ray has more information, it was supposed to be canceled, but the previous commission never canceled it, and it just showed up. And that road was supposed to be closed down, and now the taxpayers are on the hook for $225,000 on a road that was gonna be closed down. So I didn't know if you guys, are there more of those out there, or what?
What we can do is we'll have Adam do some research on the state STIP and look at all of the bridges you have in the program, and we'll put a list together. Get that to Mike, and he can forward that to you guys.
great.
And if you use the maps we've given you, you'll be able to tell where all those are and when they're scheduled. you can't trust the schedule because the DOT
Sure.
never gets something built in the year they say they're gonna get it built. But that'll tell you what's in the program.
Thank
So
you.
we'll get that information. Help you remember that.
schedule.
There is one left in the STIP program.
Yeah,
That is east of the Stone Church, about a mile.
yeah. I think we're working on that right now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Where's that right now?
All right, we'll move forward then. This one again, this one has some erosion when we were out there. I'm sure a lot more of them have this now with all the rain we've gotten. This one's currently posted at 2030. And we're gonna continue to post it at that. Next one, 2.4 miles west, 1 mile north of Irene. 40.6 foot steel, or single span, pre-stressed concrete double T, built in 1979. You can see this one has the bad piles. I think that's why it's posted. The adjacent ones too, note that. I think we've talked about that here before. Yeah, again. And this one's currently posted at 1220, which is 50% illegal loads. And we're going to continue to post it at 50%. Next one, 3.2 miles north, 3.3 miles west of Mission Hill. And it's a 32-foot single-span steel girder, built in 1930, so 90 years old. And this efficiency rate is 43.5 or 43.4. Profile and alignment again. Yeah, you can just see the deck's really old, just been wore down from being old. And this one's posted at 2440. And we're actually lowering the posting to 1932 moving forward. Next one, 4 miles north, 2.2 miles east of Mission Hill. Built in 1940, 39 foot single span steel girder. And its efficiency rating is 43.5. This one's actually a pretty interesting structure. There was originally a steel girder, and then you can see coming, I don't know how many years later, they decided they needed to add a box culvert connected to it on the left side of the screen. So there's kind of two structures in one there. You can see the original structures are pretty beat up. Those are pretty small girders. And then on the left there, that's actually the box culvert back wall. This one's currently posted at 1319, and we're going to leave it, continue to post it there. Next one, 4 miles north, 8.5 miles west of Irene. Built in 1935, 22 foot single span steel girder, sufficiency 46.1. Yeah, you can just see those decks get wore after a long time. This one's currently posted at 1323. And we're going to continue to post it there. Next one, 2 miles south, 1.8 miles east of Lesterville. It's another single span steel girder, built in 37, and sufficiency rating is 46.8. This one's currently posted at 2130. And we're going to continue to post this structure at 2130. Next one, another one's on the minimum maintenance road. It was 2 miles south, 0.1 miles west of Irene. Another single span steel girder, built in 1940. Sufficiency rating is 47.2. This one had a lot of washout issues going up in both directions. Even at the structure there, there's about a 2-foot lip there. This one's currently posted at 1628. And we are going to lower that posting and post the structure at 1221 moving forward. Next one, 5.4 miles west, 1 mile south of Irene. Another single span steel girder, built in 1940. Sufficiency rating 47.4. Again, the profile and alignments that we take of every structure. And you can see this one has a lot of deterioration, especially on the back wall. And this one's currently posted at 1628. And we're going to continue to post it at 1628. Next one, 3 miles west, 2.8 miles south of Utica. Another single span steel girder, built in 1940 again. Sufficiency rating of 49.5. It's just the same deterioration we see on most of them. This one's currently posted at 1628, and we'll continue to post it. We'll leave it there. Next one, 3.3 miles south, 1 mile east of Utica. 33.4 single span steel girder. In the report, we have built in 1935, and then they always have a dash or a slash. 1960, they must have been there's a rehab done, or they did something to that structure in 1960. I might be able to figure it out once I look at it. And the sufficiency rating is 54.8. It looks like they maybe widened it. They put widening sections on it. But same deterioration that we see on all the back walls there again. This one's currently posted at 1830, 75% of legal loads. And we're going to continue to post it there. Next one, 3 miles south, 3.4 miles west of Utica. Another single span steel girder, built in 1930. This one is currently posted at 2035. I will continue to post it there. Next one, 2 miles north, 2.7 miles west of Irene. It's a single span precast concrete double T, 41.5 feet, built in 1991. Sufficiency is 57.1. So you have some deterioration there, maybe some bearing issues there.
It's a pretty new structure to have that type of damage already, isn't it?
It is.
They don't make them like they used to.
No, it was nice.
What is that in compared, we have some from the 30s that look like they're in similar shape to that, and this one's not even that old.
Yeah, I don't know if it's just bad concrete or it's just more like a constructability issue, a construction issue, I'd assume.
Yeah, this one might end up being a candidate for a rehab. Maybe you could take a look at those. If it's a substructure issue, which is kind of what it looks like, that might be something that can be done at some point when the time seems right.
Yeah, we say too on there, concrete deterioration with exposed rebar on the north end of the east back wall. And when we say typical, it means it's happened in more than one location. So I don't know if it's on both sides of the back wall. I'm sure in our report we'll have that, but.
So you think that's more of the quality of the construction?
Yeah, I'm assuming bad concrete.
We still build double T bridges. That's an earlier generation of double T bridges. They've done some improvements to the way they do it. That's a little bit unusual. It's got timber. It's actually got some timbers there that the concrete in the upper right-hand corner of that picture is the concrete double T bears on that timber, which is a little different detail. I would almost suspect that timber's causing that. So there is there's some contractors that kind of specialize coming in and doing some, you guys have had Holloway do stuff for you guys. Like Holloway would come in and they've got an engineer who works for them, lift that and probably rebuild that bearing and maybe replace some of that concrete or redo that. That might be something, as you think about it, that this might be something we could do a rehab on, if it's a priority.
All right, this one
Do you have
is,
something done?
Well, it occurs to me that this is not very old. Do we bother to look back and see who the engineer was on this project?
wasn't me.
You weren't born yet.
What was the year it was built? I mean,
So 91, I believe it says?
91. It's possible it was built with DOT money, which, you could, through the DOT program.
Would you have record of that, Mike?
I could look in the blueprints if I could find it.
Would you please? Just for our own interest.
30 years is not that many years to get out of a new bridge. Thanks. Did anyone else have anything on that bridge?
So this structure is currently posted at 1932, which I think is around 80%. And we're going to continue to post it there. Next one, 5 miles south, 4.4 miles west of Irene. Another single span steel girder, built in 1940, sufficiency rating 58.9. There's your typical deterioration again. This structure, it was posted at 1831. And we're going to continue to post it there. We'll leave it there. Next one, 1.2 miles north, 1 mile east of Yankton. Another single span steel girder, built in 1964, sufficiency of 67. Profile and alignment. This structure is currently posted at 2440, and I'm pretty sure we'll leave. Nope, we're posting it at 2135, so lower it slightly. Next one is 4 miles north, 9.7 miles west of Irene. Another single span steel girder, built in 1938, sufficiency of 79.8. So a little bit.
Build them like they used to, right there, pre-World War II.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the skirter's like in pretty good condition. And we are posting the structure at 24 legal loads.
Again, 24 on the first number is basically a typical straight truck that you see. The special hauling vehicles, the tanks with 15 rows of tires underneath them, those can't go over this. So it's pretty much legal for everything that most people are driving.
All right, I'll give it back to Kevin.
Should have Josh come every time. If he goes twice as fast as Adam. That wraps up. So we've been through, I think this is the third or fourth time we've been down to kind of go through these. We've kind of shown you in 3 different groups. Did the county bridges, this was the township. Spent a little bit of time on the Jim River bridges as well. It's really kind of time for you guys to digest. I just put some dates that are kind of some things, if you want to think about some deadlines of when maybe you need to get your arms around some of these things and start packaging things together and prioritizing. I'll start with the second one that's due October 15th. You already have a 5-year plan. Your 5-year plan is kind of where you pull these all together and prioritize them, say what you want to do next year. And that's kind of a living document that changes through time. So you got something you can look at. You can filter through that, some of the information that we've given you that can move some of those up and down on that or take it in a completely different direction. If you're thinking about doing something sooner rather than later, the preliminary engineering grant application with the DOT is August 1st. So if you wanted to get going on one, by August 1st, you need to have a grant application in.
Is that for the shovel-ready plans you talk about?
This would be the preliminary, what they call a preliminary PE grant, preliminary engineering. This would be where we go out, survey the bridge, take a look at the hydraulics, decide what type of structures, maybe look at a couple costs, maybe a cheaper type structure, maybe a more expensive type structure. And then that sort of culminates in what they call a TSNL type, size, and location, where you determine what the bridge will be. At the end of that, you would be ready to apply for a construction grant. They're both big grants, but that would be the next round would be a construction grant. So this would be to sort of start one from scratch.
Would not include any design, actual design.
No, there's some limited design. You're doing the configuration, some of the civil, laying it in there, skewing the bridge, some of that type of stuff, but not getting into any structure design or anything like that. So if you've got something that you guys are thinking about on the county level or any level, a bridge that you want to do sooner rather than later, this is starting it. If we start, you get a PE grant now, you got the grant in August. We have turned some around where we turn around and apply for a construction preservation grant, which is the third line. That's January 2nd. The DOT is, I think, going to not allow that to happen anymore because people keep short-circuiting the system and skipping ahead too fast. That'd be a year from January. You know, you're looking at 4 or 5 years to get a bridge built. So when we talk about the Stone Church Bridge building it in 5 years, you know, you miss one grant, you don't get a grant, you have to apply again the next year. You should start sooner rather than later if you've got some that you have prioritized.
Should we start that process on Stone Church Bridge, or what's your recommendation?
You know, the preliminary engineering grant, for those type of bridges, I'd say they're 50,000. Less if it's a small stream, maybe more if it's the Jim River. Obviously, there's a little bit more hydrology and it's maybe more, the bridges are bigger to lay out and that type of thing. But again, you'd be paying, if you just did a normal grant application and you did the 80-20, you're going to be paying 20% of, so you know, 10, 15,000 bucks tops would be the county's out of pocket on those. And that gets you kind of in the game for going after the big money in the second round.
If we aren't selected for that, would that work the next year after that as well?
You could apply again the next year. You know, we've talked about that a little bit, the point system, you know, you get big points. This past go around, we had bridges down under in the 50s, which I think these are in that ballpark of right at the bottom of that. So I think you're right in the ballpark of applying at 80-20. If, for instance, if you were to miss on an 80-20, you can still accelerate. You could still pay for something like this yourself and do a plan. There's a lot of things you can do to accelerate it. You could say, we'll do 70-30. We're willing to pay 30% of that. Obviously, Stone Church is a big, expensive bridge to start upping the local percentage. But there's some games you can play. But I would think if the way you guys have talked, that's kind of where you guys are headed, and it would make some sense. You're not committing to the big bucks right now or anything, but you're getting the ball rolling. So, yeah, and then the 1 and 5 year plan, I'm assuming Mike will put that together and start with what Brad had last year and filter through some of this, and I'm sure have some discussions with Sherry and Dan, work with him, or Sherry and Don work with him. And I'm sure that'll be back in front of you guys at some point to approve. I know it will be back in front of you guys at some point to approve. That's a process you guys, most counties go through that on their own. I think you guys are as educated as any commission that we've worked with in a long time, so I think you guys will do just great. If you have any questions in that process of us, or have some questions about the grant process, application process, we'd help you with anything. But you guys have absorbed a ton of information in the last few months from us. With that, I think we're kind of done. If you don't have any questions.
Any questions from the board? Any questions for the audience, for the engineers while they're here? Anybody? All right, thank you very much. Will you flip the lights back on, please?
Wake up.
Mike, did you have anything you wanted to go over with that, or why they're here? You're good? All right. All right, next item on the agenda, item number 14, approve new planning commission.
We get a
Load limits.
Oh, did we?
Just you read
Oh, I apologize. Item number 13, 14, approve new planning commission member. Load limit, is mine different than yours? Mine is different. I got it, they printed me out a different one. All right, item number 14, load limits on bridges. Commissioner Healy.
Okay, so I just wanted to talk about this again. At the previous meeting, we discussed it, and kind of against my better judgment, I might have jumped the gun, but I wanted to, my intent was if we're gonna open bridges or raise limits to get it done when load limits come off, when fertilizer's going out, things of that nature. Last time, we were hoping that Clark would have been here to answer some questions, and they were unable to attend, and that's fine. But being they're here, I would like to just open up that discussion again. If there's any questions, concerns, or whatnot about raising those limits. And so what we didn't talk about last time either, and what started this conversation with Clark, was going to a single lane truck traffic flow. And at that time, Clark recommended it's probably a better option to just go to the LFR rating versus they would prefer to see a LFR rating with normal traffic flow versus some of the complications that may come with single truck traffic. And so with them here, I just wanted to open this up again and see what everybody's thinking, I guess.
And you wanted to switch load ratings, correct? That's what you were discussing last time. Are you talking about switching to LFR, or are you talking about doing that and going to a single lane bridge so everybody?
Well, if we went to LFR, Kevin with Clark Engineering, or Adam, I don't know if he put this together, but this was provided today. You can see the 4 Jim River bridges, and the current posting is column 3, that's the LRFR method. If we went to the LFR posting, is in the 4th column, and that's what we discussed last week. And if we're not comfortable with that, then going to single lane is in columns using LFR or LRFR. That's in columns 5 and 6. And so if we remain with 2-lane traffic and went to LFR, we would get to legal loads on all the bridges except for Stone Church, which we're not going to get there anyway with Stone Church. And I don't want to put words in your mouth, and I guess based off the email from Adam, but remaining 2 lanes with a different rating is probably preferred versus single lane truck.
Yeah, it's a preference. I don't have a lot of experience with the 1-lane bridges. I think a lot of us are aware of the one in Iowa, but I think you're sort of trading one nuisance to the public, the posting for another nuisance. All the people who have cars are going to be coming in and complaining that they have to stop and wait for trucks to come to a complete stop and slowly get back up to speed across the bridge. And with starting with the worst one, Stone Church, if you guys are going to move forward with that, we've talked about if you're in that 5-year window, it's okay to get a little more aggressive. We're not talking about safety. We're talking about service life. If this bridge were 15 years old, we'd be saying, let's stick with the more aggressive posting because we want to get another 40 years out of this bridge. When we know we're maybe 5 or 10 years away from replacing them, to start taking a little bit more chances with that service life, I think is reasonable for you guys and accommodating the public. It's an important bridge. So I would be okay with you guys moving to the LRFR. You can't just move there and forget about them because you are,
Right.
Theoretically deteriorating the bridges a little quicker, but it's like.
And one thing that we talked about last week, and I guess maybe get your opinion on it. Fleeg's Bridge is on an annual inspection. The remaining 3 bridges are on a biannual inspection. So if there was increased deterioration, or if something were to happen, I guess I feel comfortable that we would catch it within the 1-year time period. And I don't know if you have any
Yeah,
thoughts
I don't
on
think
that.
any of these are on, sort of imminent failure. There's nothing that's really a safety issue, a public safety issue. This is about the longevity of the bridge and making sure. The one thing we don't want, this happened to us a couple of years ago. We were at the very end of a life cycle. We actually we had done some grant work in Moody County, and then we went out and inspected the bridge and closed it, and it just was a nightmare. They had been talking about it, and they kind of put it off a little bit too long. We don't want that to happen. That would be the nightmare and scenario. If you're moving on with them, then we don't need to protect them. I think you're reasonable. The Fleegs is on an annual, I think, for scour.
Right.
We've talked, I think you guys had some concerns last time you guys talked when we weren't here about maybe some flood damage and stuff. There's really nothing we can see at this point. It's not safe for us to get in there and try to evaluate the scour still. The water's too high. But that's something, that can definitely be done. And if you want to be a little bit more aggressive with the posting, and we can put them on an annual inspection basis, the DOT pays 80% of that, and you're really talking about hundreds of dollars a bridge for you guys every year to put that on an annual inspection. And that's really just a request from Mike away. I think it's pretty reasonable. They're not going to object to that, if you guys feel comfortable with that.
My question 2 weeks ago was not so much on safety, but it was on longevity. And my understanding is by going to the LFR method, is that right? LRFR method of determining weight, we would lower the number of years expectancy of the bridge's life. We have a hell of a time generating enough income to work our asphalt roads. We're turning them back to gravel, and I have a tough time equating allowing to save one trip out of every 5 or 7 to town, allowing heavier weight trucks to go over the bridges to pick up a year or 2.
Yeah.
Or to lose several years of possible bridge usage. That's my concern. So can you tell me how many years of lifetime we're likely to lose by doing this?
No, I mean, obviously these are all sort of statistical games that you play. There's way smarter people than me, PhD people, who analyze this stuff at the federal level and come up with these design systems. The LRFR is the latest one. It's what we design. Most of these bridges are so old they weren't even designed with the LFR system. They were probably designed with ASD, which is, I'm not even going to try to explain that, was a completely different system. So you usually run into problems when you move forward to new design systems. So for instance, these bridges have been in since, Fleegs since '52, and they've seen a lot of loads, and they are showing some deterioration. But a lot of the posting is these older steel bridges. As the price of steel got more expensive, they started cutting corners, and they were coming up with ways to lighten the steel. And finally, we just said steel's too expensive. Now we make them out of concrete for the most part. So a lot of it is the girders are light. They've been seeing these loads for 50 years, and if we're 20 years from now, might be okay. In 4 years, 2 cycles from now, we start seeing some problems. We're going to be back in here going, whoa, I think we need to take another crack at this.
We got to raise the money. We got to come up with the money. You just have to tell us they can be done.
The thing I say is, I know. The thing I say is, you could do them all at LRFR, and we have counties that do things like that, and in 4 years we're going to come back and go, oh, this one's really starting to go, like something turned on us. It's hard to predict. You could not do it.
But what are we gaining? What are we gaining? What we're gaining is allowing, instead of 7 trips to town, we're allowing 5 trips to town, or 6 trips to town.
Can I rephrase your question a little bit?
No.
Or the answer, maybe? So, I understand where you're coming from, Don. I guess what I had brought up last week, or my solution to that is, okay, if we went to an increased, more aggressive load rating, and in 4 years we say, okay, we're seeing something showing up, and we reduce it, we effectively could reduce it down to empty trucks, because that bridge is,
How
so
are you
with
gonna pay
that.
for it?
No, you just reduce the load limit again, and now would that effectively preserve it again?
Yeah.
You know, you take it down from, instead of 33 tons it's at today, if we, if the bridge gets severely damaged, you take it down to Stone Church ratings.
I guess, not 1 year ago, Johnson Bridge was closed down, so I guess I'm in agreement with Don, is we got to take care of these bridges, and when we're at the position where we start replacing them, which is our goal with Stone Church and those, I would feel more comfortable with that. But how is this going to affect our bridge improvement grant? Say we open up Stone Church to the 20, 30 ton, why we're trying to replace it, is that going to make it less likely that we get a bridge improvement grant?
Yeah, I mean, there's some of those as we move towards applying for a big grant, we want to have that posting at the most beneficial for getting us points
So we
and
want to
money.
keep, say, Stone Church at least where it is, and in 1 or 2 years, if we get selected for a bridge improvement grant, that one is scheduled for replacement, then use up what's left of it, because we already have that.
Yeah.
But don't do that until then, and I guess I'm concerned that we'll be using up some of the lives of these bridges without having any funding in place. Best case scenario, if we replace a bridge every 5 years, we'll have them all in 20 years. Best case scenario, and things aren't likely to be best case. So
Yeah,
I
from,
guess-
from that standpoint, I don't think we have to think of it as a LFR or LRFRs. Maybe we want to look at both of them. If Stone Church and you guys are going to move on that, and we're hoping to have that replaced in 5 years, and Fleegs is in 10 years, maybe we are a little more aggressive with those. And if we think Jamesville and Johnson could be out there 20 years, maybe we stay at LRFR on those and until we get a little closer, to reduce the risk exactly of what you're saying.
So what I would suggest is, we put $2 million in the bank in savings, so we know we can do what you're talking about, and then we reduce the weights.
That's not an unreasonable,
Can I ask you about specific to Fleegs?
Gary hasn't had a chance to speak yet. Go
Oh,
ahead, Gary.
go ahead, Gary.
If, like Don said, if we had $2 million or 3 or 5 or whatever, that would bring up the big score, wouldn't it?
If you could match more, yeah.
Yeah. So like Dan and Don, the more money we put in there, the big score comes up, the bigger chance we have of getting it's kind of like playing poker, if you're playing with an empty hand or no money, you can't win with scared money. So
Yeah.
I guess I'd have to be in agreement with Dan and Don that we
I
need.
think you guys are going to score well, because you've got, these are high-traffic bridges. Even the ones that look like low-traffic roads to you are higher traffic than a lot of the bridges that are applying. You go West River, they're real low volume. There's some things in the formula that allow them because of the length of detour and some things, but you don't have a lot of Jim River bridges, so the detours are long too. I think you're going to do okay on them. To me, the reason that I could see you wanting to push them off, and maybe you want to be a little more cautious, as Don and it sounds like Gary is kind of alluding to, is, these are $2 million bridges, and you do one of those, and you want to do 3 or 4 other bridges in there, and all of a sudden you run into that cap of how much you can get, and then that could start affecting these, and you're going to start really pushing them back, I think, is the fear, because other things come up and you want to leverage that funding for other things. So, it's something you could, to me, it might be reasonable to be more aggressive with the 2. You're maybe more, spent a lot of time talking about Stone's Church and Fleegs, and I think the other 2 are, when we get there, when we get these done, we'll start thinking about those. So maybe it would make sense to stay a little more conservative with those, but.
Joe, Sherry, did you have something?
Yes.
Go ahead.
As far as the big score, it was alluded to that our big score would change for Stone Church, and it won't. Both LFR and LRFR have a 46.76 rating for a big score. So whether we're conservative or not so conservative, the big score has not changed. One question I did want to ask is, when were we given the option for 2 measurements? How many years ago did that happen? Was it 2, 3 years ago?
The LRFR is relatively new, maybe in the last 3 to 5 years, something like that.
So 3
We've
years.
started using it a couple cycles ago, so we've just been using it for
Okay.
2 or 3 years
So
ourselves.
we have only been using that 2 or 3 years. And now all of a sudden, dare I say, it's gold. And I think you can get where my point is coming from. Up until a couple years ago, we were happy as a lark. And I remember when these more aggressive load limits went in, people went through the roof. And why are we doing this? So somewhere in the middle, I see some type of a compromise, and I am for changing the load limits on Stone Church. Whether we just do it for that one and we leave the other 3 alone is fine. But my intent and my goal is to get that bridge addressed in 5, maybe 6 years. And I really think we can do it. It's going to be a little pain to put the money away, but I really think that bridge can qualify. So I am a supporter of going with the LFR to a 2023. And I keep going back to that loaded school bus. If you've got a bridge out there and you can't even get a loaded school bus across it, that bridge is, dare I say, almost worthless to even upkeep as it stands today. So I feel comfortable because you are not worried about the safety of this bridge at all. It is simply a structural view on how you rate the bridge. I feel comfortable increasing the load limits on that bridge. Now, if the other 3, the rest of the commission feels we need to leave alone because doing a bridge every 5 years at this cost is going to be a pretty big challenge sitting here, and most likely I won't be on the commission at that point. So our job is to set up this county to address all of these bridges, and having that discussion today, I think starting with this type of analysis as we go forward is what we need to do, because it is a compromise between public need, the money we have, and the safety of the bridge, the usefulness of the bridge.
Joe, did you have something?
Yeah,
Go ahead.
2 comments specifically to Fleeks Bridge. One, the scouring issue. That's going to be on an annual inspection. Do you feel the scouring issue is going to show its head sooner than the bridge deterioration issue? If we left everything as today, what are we going to fight first?
Yeah, I mean, and I don't have a familiarity with the floods. Maybe people who've lived here a lot longer than me, and I've never lived here, but could certainly see and kind of anticipate. You got to believe there was some scour things went on this year, that as the river goes down, we're going to see some stuff. And obviously, it's been a relatively common thing at Fleeks, I think, because of some of the other stream issues adjacent to the bridge. But yeah, that's likely to rear its head. Scour issues, in particular when you get on a big stream like the Jim, are not necessarily cheap, but for, if in the event that there is something, $100,000 of riprap would go a long way towards fixing a scour issue like that. So it may be something that can be repaired. And I know $100,000 is not a little sum of money, but it's, when you're talking about a $2 million bridge, I don't think you move towards replacing a $2 million bridge or accelerating the construction of a $2 million bridge because of a $100,000 scour problem. If that happens, the difficult thing about some of this FEMA stuff, I'm sure you guys have been briefed by your emergency management directors, we're kind of running into these deadlines. You got to declare this stuff, but we can't see it to declare it. Because that would be, if we wanted to do some scour, there were some scour issues, you may be able to get some reimbursement for that if we could tie that to flooding. And it'd be pretty easy to tie it to flooding because we've got bridge inspection photos that would show that this is a new occurrence. So there's a chance you could get some funding to assist with that. But that's a little bit different animal. So there's maybe some other ways to look at that, but scour should definitely be fixed
And then the
before
other,
it becomes a structural problem.
Okay, thank you. The other thing that keeps playing in the back of my mind, and it was specific to Fleeks because it was brought up during the Fleeks discussion, I think when it was lowered, but the comment was made at the last inspection that the condition of the bridge itself, the lowering was due 100% to the LFR posting, to the new method, and the condition of the bridge itself was really no worse than it was 25 years ago. And to me, if that's a true statement, raising it 7 tons is not going to be, I mean, yes, in theory, on paper, it's going to increase the deterioration, but there's several reasons why I don't think it's going to. One, it has not done that in the past inspections. It hasn't been showing up. And two, that road, that bridge, whether it's posted or not, is a single truck bridge. I mean, it is. And so if you go over to the column here with the weight restrictions in the single lane, LRFR or LFR, there'd be no issue, you know, the safe rating, the LRFR, there's no issue with a legal load. That's kind of what I go back to, especially
If
on
it's a
fleets.
single truck bridge.
Yeah, but I'm saying even if it's not posted single truck bridge, it is, because you don't have two, it's rare when you have two trucks meet each other on the bridge.
Mike, why don't you come up and tell us your opinion on.
Just, can I comment
Yep,
on
go
Joe's?
ahead.
One thing I would say is it's not just two trucks meeting on the bridge, two trucks, one in front of the other truck, that one is in one span and mid-span and one is in the next mid-span, actually increases the negative moment over the top of the bend. And oftentimes those are actually the more critical moments.
Okay.
So two trucks on the bridge going the same direction can still be a problem. So that one lane bridge, we were essentially basically doing a stop, and one was assuming just one truck on the bridge, actually. Not two trucks going the same direction can hurt too.
Okay.
Can I ask him something else?
Yep, go ahead.
There's been no inspection since the flood of any of the bridges, correct?
I think Mike's guys have been out and looked at some stuff, but yeah, we
But I mean,
have not.
you
No, we
haven't?
have not.
No, okay.
And you can come down, but there's nothing we can see, like
Yeah.
the scour stuff, because the water's up until it goes
I'm
down.
just saying that I have empathy because my family is farmers. My dad, my uncle, and cousins are still farming, and I farmed. But there's all these alternatives. When I was in the Army, it was improvise, substitute, and adapt. When the fields are wet and the truck can't go out in the field next to the combine, you run a grain cart out there and bring it up to the semi that's on the highway. I'm not advocating this, but there's ways with school buses. Yankton's got tiny school buses, 1-tonners. Is there some way that your school could run a couple of those without those big old single axle buses? I mean, you got to think outside of the box. You know what I mean? Because it might be like this next year, and it might be like 2012. It might not rain at all, or it could be worse. You know, I mean, we can't. My dad always said that you can't control the weather, but the politicians keep trying. You know, and so everybody's gonna have to think out of the box.
Thanks,
and
Gary.
because and safety is what we got to think about.
Thanks, Gary. Appreciate it. All right, Mike, let's get your opinion on this.
I guess my opinion is on going to the LFR rating would be, if anything, would be Stone Church, but I think I agree with Don where we should almost have a plan in place to replace the bridge, just for the fact of how much time are we going to save it or take off of it by changing the load ratings on them. Joe's aspect, I see with Fleeg's Bridge, yeah, I totally agree. To meet two trucks at the same time ain't gonna happen. But then like Kevin said, if you have two right behind each other, that wouldn't, it could cause damage also, so.
Anybody from the audience want to comment on this?
I've got a question.
Come on up, sir. Introduce yourself, state your name for the record, and
Kent
I'll give you
Metler.
3 minutes. Go ahead.
I'm not that familiar with the Fleeg Bridge, but when you talk about limiting it to one truck, is the Fleeg Bridge that long that you can have two trucks, one behind the other, at the same time on the bridge at a safe distance?
Yeah.
I mean, if you're crowding it, the potential is there to have two on that one at one time,
I suppose.
but the odds of it ever happening are pretty slim. That was the only thing. I understand your momentum and how that impacts the bridge. And then I'm thinking, how often is that going to happen that that's going to ever create that big of an issue? And it takes a fairly long bridge to, if you're going to stay your 300 feet in between trucks, that you're going to have that happen. That's my.
Thank you, Ken.
Can I ask you something, or
Yeah.
tell you something? I've had a CDL for a couple decades, and if you ever drive by a truck stop, you see what happens. 3, 4, 5, 6 trucks pull out at the same time, and it's a caravan, it's convoy. So,
Yeah.
I mean, nobody can determine if there's gonna be two of them behind each other, but there's always that possibility. I saw over on the James River on 50, I saw 2 doubles, a semi and a pup,
Yeah.
big pup, and they were going side by side across, going east.
Right.
That bridge. So that
Right.
was 4 semis.
And that's wider bridge where that isn't going to happen on Fleet.
But
Yeah.
I'm just saying that
Yeah.
it does happen occasionally.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'm saying
All
it
right.
can, yeah, but I don't know how often, I guess.
I
That's
sympathize
the only
with
thing,
you.
yeah.
Thank you, Ken.
Yeah.
Appreciate it. Anyone else care to make a public comment? Now would be the time to do so. Anybody? Going once? Going twice? All right, back to the board, I guess.
Well, does anyone have thoughts on at least Sherry's proposal with, at the very least, Stone Church, it's currently posted at 11:13, and even with the LFR, we can go 20:23.
Well, is Stone Church Road's not even open right now, is it?
Right.
And there's still major flooding going on north of the James River, so I guess we could open it up, but it's a moot point because the road isn't open.
Well,
at
then
this
we're
point.
having the discussion now.
Well, I mean, I know I was up at Stone Church Bridge and I saw, 50-foot long, 3-foot pieces come in and smash into the pylon when we had that storm. I guess without it being inspected, I'm concerned about it, to
Okay.
tell you the truth. And, like Don had said, if we had $800,000 in the bank and we had our bridge improvement grant secured, I would say, yes, let's use that bridge, but we're not there. I don't think we have $1 put toward the Stone Church Bridge replacement at this point, and if we use it and we break it, then we don't have it. It's my concern, so.
Well, I just wanted to appreciate bringing it up again. I didn't want to,
No, yeah.
you know.
Did you want to vote on it?
No,
Do you
I
want a
think
motion on this, or?
I like Gary's suggestion on the smaller school bus. That is a possible option.
Yeah. I believe that was with Menno, was that with the Menno School,
Menno
right?
School,
Yeah.
yeah.
It's tough, but it'd be a lot tougher when that bridge is closed down. I mean, look at how difficult it was when Johnson Bridge was closed down. It was tough, and that wasn't that long ago, so. So did we want a motion on this or not?
I just wanted to,
Okay.
with Clark here, I wanted to open it up again, but I just appreciate everybody hearing it again.
All right, if there's no motion, we'll go ahead and move on. All right. Next item on the agenda. Thank you, guys. Next item on the agenda, item number 15, approve a new planning commissioner. Who wants to take this one?
You have the sheets up, that's
Oh.
with the 5.
All right. Joe, do you want to take this? You want me to?
As soon as I find my sheet.
It's underneath.
Okay. So we had a resignation on the Planning and Zoning Commission a few weeks ago, so we opened that up. We had, looks like 5 applicants. And so we need to replace the resigned position and get a full commission again.
Do you want me to read the names?
Yeah, we could go ahead and read
And
the
then,
name.
then when you want to mark the ones, and then I'll mark the ones.
Okay, so Gary Moore, Devin Wagner, Jeff Goodall, Doug Hevel, and Dennis Michael.
I guess before we vote, is there anybody who'd want to maybe open this up again? I know, I guess I take responsibility. I thought we would advertise it in the newspaper, and I didn't make that happen. We do have 5 very qualified applicants, so what is the board's thought? Do we vote tonight, or do we open it back up? Do we want to vote tonight? Is everybody-
I would
okay.
vote tonight.
Okay, so we'll go ahead, everybody circle who you'd like, and then hand that to the auditor. Now the suspense begins.
Okay, Gary Moore received 0, Devin Wagner 0, Jeff Goodall 0, Doug Heavily 2, Dennis Michael 3.
All right. Entertain a motion to approve Dennis Michael as the new planning commissioner, and that would be to fill out, it would, I think, be a little less than 2 year to fill out Eric Koning's position, since Eric Koning's resigned. So I would entertain a motion.
Make a motion to appoint Dennis Michael to finish out the 2-year position on the planning and zoning.
Second.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Is there further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passed. Next item on the agenda, item number 16, Military Appreciation Month and oversized vehicles.
Can I do the parking lot first, or?
Yeah, however you want to handle
Yeah,
it here.
It won't take very long.
All right.
I think a lot of us know that it's been a tough spring, and we've had tough ones before, but we're tough people in South Dakota. And I'm just going to bring up one thing before I start talking about this parking lot. I remember my wife and I got married in 1993, and it was the 28th of May, and I remember this distinctly because it was raining and raining. You couldn't do anything. It was just like this. And that's a week later than where we are now. And Gary Freeberg and Amy walked in the reception out at the Yankton Inn, and Gary said, "Gary, I'm going crazy. I'm just going to paraphrase this." He said, "All I've been doing is pulling the dipstick out of tractors, and I'm wearing them out because I can't do any hay. I can't do nothing." I think he got several thousand acres of hay. And I remember that, and I thought, well, we've been through this before, and I know there's frustration with everybody. My dad farmed, my uncle Earl Swenson, Randy Swenson farms, Rodney Anderson, my cousin, Alan Braunschreider, another cousin of my wife, and everybody's going through this. But we had some tractors came in the parking lot. The big complaint was that a lot of the older disabled people couldn't get up to the building that just drove away, I guess, is what some of them said, or what some of the comments. It just made it hard for everybody. There were some oil leaks, and this was new concrete. I thought it was 20,000. I think it's like 17,000 we had for repairs recently in the last couple of years. We just had it restriped. I know everybody's frustrated, but the roads out in the country are bad enough. We don't need to tear up the parking lot with equipment like we had. Would have been a lot easier. I know that hindsight's 20/20. Put the tractors around on the pavement on this highway and put them all the way around and circle it. But like I said, it made it real hard for older people, disabled people, and we don't have a lot of parking places anyway. So if somebody else would want to add something to it or complaints.
Yeah, I got several complaints about people who wanted to attend the meeting, and there was, one person taking up 8 spots, and then I did get a call from our groundskeeper that had to remove a bunch of mud and clean up some oil. It's one of those things that if he's not doing, if he's doing that, that's wasted tax dollars, so.
Yeah. And like everybody knows, there's 2 kinds of concrete. Cracked, and that's what's going to crack, and it won't show up now because I had a new concrete 2 years later. The Clay Indian Electric came up and parked on it, and I chased them off with a big auger truck, and the next spring, it big crack all the way across. Well, what are you going to do? But anyway, and let's go on to the appreciation. May's Military Appreciation Month, and I brought my sign again. I put it up here because last time I had it down here, nobody could see it, so I put it up here. pretty self-explanatory, but I asked our veteran service officer to say a few words, and I see he's here. He's been here since the beginning, but he's a tough guy. His dad bought a tractor on my grandpa's farm sale back in 49 or 50, so we've known each other for a long time.
Did you want to say a few words, Mike?
I got a quick thing and I'll be done.
Welcome, state your name for the record so we can get you in the record that you said something.
I'm the Veteran Service Officer for Yankton County. My name's Michael McDonald.
Thank you.
Gary asked me to come up with some stuff about Military Appreciation Week and as far as what we're doing with veteran services in Yankton County. Just kind of a quick rundown. Yankton County has approximately 1,700 veterans that reside in the county. The Veteran Service Office, I have an attitude that we will service any veteran that walks in the door. That means that I will help guys that are in Cedar and Knox County. I will help guys in Bonham County. I'll help guys in Clay County, Turner County, Hutchinson County. If they're trading in Yankton, I'm going to help them. The compensation awards that they might receive or pension awards that their family might receive, those dollars get spent in Yankton, whether it's at Mark's Machinery or Southgate 56 or 66 or JO's Complete Car Care. You know, those federal dollars are coming in there. There's about $5 million that comes through the VA into Yankton County. So I'm gonna help any veteran that walks in the door. The compensation awards, pension awards, education awards. Education awards go not only to post-secondary people, but they also go to people that go to technical school. And we have health care benefits that we see that those federal dollars come into Yankton as well through Avera or the Yankton Medical Clinic. We have what they call a care in the community thing that has been developed now in the last couple of years, where if we have veterans that live with more than 40 miles away from Sioux Falls, they can seek permission from the VA to get their health care benefits locally through our, local physicians and stuff. There are other benefits that we do with the with the VA. We work with funeral benefits, home loan benefits, and other things. As far as military appreciation goes, if I can get a few more drivers with the DAV van system, that would be great. We have 7 right now. We have a couple fellows that are kind of on the limb because they've experienced a medical situation. And if we can get 3 or 4 other folks in the community that can help us out. And we only drive on Tuesdays and Thursdays. And you have to go through a protocol with the VA to become a volunteer driver. But if we can get 3 or 4 more people on that list, that would be great.
And you don't have to be a veteran to do that, correct?
No, you do not. No. I've had 2 or 3 fellows who are non-veterans, and they did it mostly because they felt they owed it to the veteran. So, and God bless them for doing it. Other than that, that's kind of the information I had written up for Gary, and he asked me if I'd present it today, so I did.
Can you post that on our website that we need those drivers?
I have in the past, and I can remind Valley.
I think so,
Yeah.
Do they inquire?
If you want to do a PSA in the paper.
Yeah, I do that too. I do that about 4 or 5 times a
Do
year.
they inquire with you then?
Yeah, they can inquire with me, but seeing that we have the cable.
Yeah, I'll post something on
Yeah.
our Facebook site too.
You were in the Navy, and I was Army, and Dan was a captain, and I think Don was a lieutenant colonel, weren't you?
No.
Okay, anyway, close. Anyway.
You are in my book, Don.
I made it to cap.
Okay, good, but we're all Army, so.
It's all right being a Navy guy.
Hey.
You shouldn't feel bad about it.
I know When I worked for the Navy in
It's-
Chicago,
it's
at Great
just-
Lakes, the food was
It's
fantastic.
it's just like when I was with the Navy Band Sea Chanters, we saved the best for the last, and that was Anchors Aweigh. So, but
Thank you.
you bet.
Thank you very much.
Just for the record, how many veterans in Yankton County?
Oh, we have about 1,700 in Yankton County.
Okay.
When I first started, we had closer to about 2,100, but we have seen a great turnaround with Korean and WW2 guys passing away, and I think we're down to like maybe 28 WW2 guys left in the county. And the Korean.
We lost one last week, Roland Presler. He was Korean War, he was in a tank, so now we're
Yep.
1699.
Well, and the other thing, too, to think about here in Yankton County, your veteran population will probably stay stable, mostly because we have been going to Southeast Asia for 19 years now. And we have a National Guard unit in our community, and some of those guys are coming back, or they get a little banged up and they need some help. Or they've been exposed to chemical burns, things like that, and they need some assistance. So this isn't something that's going to die away. As long as we're sending our young people off to take care of business for the protection of our country, we need to maintain a level of assistance when they return. And I've said this before. 45 years ago when I came back, I had buddies that needed some help bad, and they got turned away. And it should never happen again. So,
Mac, on that point, when Bravo Battery does come back, I think we should, at the ceremony, we should have some sort of booth or something and give them our contact information. Not everybody from Bravo Battery is from Yankton, but it would be nice to,
That's a
when
good
they have
idea.
that reception here. Because I remember my first tour when I flew into Fort Dix at 4 o'clock in the morning. The Vietnam veterans were there, and they gave us some hot chow and said nobody was here for me when I came home, and we're not going to let that happen to you. So I appreciate that.
Yep.
Just a 30-second side deal. The Yankton Optimist sponsored this baseball game, and we made a special effort to get all the kids of Bravo Batteries kids
Oh, yeah.
to the game and give them hot dogs and pop and stuff. And I think there's only one family that came. The rest of them were from, communities quite a ways away or couldn't come.
yeah.
But that one family sure enjoyed
Yeah, I
it.
bet they
Yeah.
did. Well, thanks for doing that, Don.
But
Anything else from Mike?
No, I just want to thank him for
Yeah,
everything he does.
appreciate it, Mike, very much.
Okay.
Thank you. All righty. Next item on the agenda, item number 17, Planning and Development District 3 contract. Joe Healy.
I'm not in this pack. I thought Valley's gonna put it, I can get an email. Long and short is with the previous contract, we had extended to May 15th for planning and zoning, for District 3 to help with planning and zoning. And so we've reached out to to District 3 again. That contract is now extended one more month. And, I promised them that we would really try to get somebody in that office, so.
We've been doing interviews, and we have 4 of them scheduled for Thursday. So, yeah.
Yep. So we have been trying, we would like to have that office fully staffed, and we understand that it's a little cumbersome for the citizens to come in for permits and CUPs and drainage permits and whatnot, and so we appreciate your patience in working with us.
So do we need a motion to extend that?
You're
So-
extending it till what date?
June 14th.
Move
I think.
approval.
I have a motion, is there a second?
Second?
Motion and a second, further discussion. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion passed. Next item on the agenda, public comment. Thank you very much. First and only person is Mr. Louis Johnson. You have 3 minutes, sir.
Louis Johnson, Vollen. I'd just like to set the record straight. I didn't make a couple of meetings, and I listened to a lady get up here and raise particular hell about township roads and how much it was costing the county because of the damn CAFO trucks, and they were ruining the road, and how terrible it was. Number one, it was a township road. It was not a county road. Number two, the CAFO owner is paying for the repairs to the road. It's not costing her any money. Number three, I looked up her taxes. Before she got her taxes lowered, she was paying $35 a year in township taxes, which means that once every 3 years, she basically paid for an hour's worth of blading. And the road that she was complaining about, she could have gone south, she could have gone north. And actually the one to the north was way better. The one to the south, there's a spot there where the landowner has trees in the ditch, it holds back water, and the road is terrible. Just like it is by this lady's place where her trees are in the right of way. But apparently, if she's causing the damage, it's not a problem, it's just if it's somebody else. And that one bothers me, and that brings me to the next thing. The township should have a say-so in where acreages get put out in the, if it's a township road. Why should everybody else in the township have to make up the difference? Okay, you're paying $35 a year in taxes. Well, it costs you $700 to maintain your road. Why should everybody else have to do that? You want to live in the country? Get one on the county road. Enough about that. Other thing, we need a right to farm ordinance in this county drastically before it is too late. The third thing I want to talk about, could somebody please tell me what the county gets for income out of tourism? I have a lot of friends that have campgrounds and developments and things like that. I understand what they get. But I always hear, oh, this tourism is the best thing in the world. What's the county get out of it? Sales tax? No. So where's the county income? Do we have extra expense like lake patrol? Extra search and rescue? Do we actually make any money on tourism? Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else care to make a public comment? Going once, going twice. All right, I'll close the public comment period. Next item on the agenda, commission updates. Don, Gary, do you have anything? Nope. I have quite a few things. I'll try to be quick. Joe and I, on May 8th, attended the Government Office of Economic Development meeting. It was pretty interesting. The governor is partnered with Office of Economic Development for livestock development, specifically CAFOs. It will give the, what was it, the 4.5% state tax rate back to the counties to do with it whatever they'd like. But this only is on permitted facilities. So an example, one of the individuals from Union County, they don't need a conditional use permit for a swine barn, so they don't get any of that funding. Hutchinson County is the same way. So you have to get a conditional use permit for these, even these smaller facilities, in order for you to get the tax refund. Did you have anything you wanted to say on that, Joe, that meeting we attended?
There's a few unanswered questions, and I have an email out, and the GOED is still working on. This is a fairly new thing that they've laid out, but yeah, essentially, a permitted, meaning livestock development unit that either the county requires a CUP or the state requires DENR permitting. The sales tax paid into the project of the development, so building of the facility, the county will likely see 4.5% back from that. They don't have any dollar figure estimates, and there's some question on if it's just the 4.5% on just building materials, or is there other fees included? And so I'm waiting to hear back on that, but when I do, I'll let you know. And then the other thing to note is any permitted operation today does not qualify it. It's only new permits, and that started, when did we go last week?
Started
2 weeks
May
ago.
8th, so anything
So
done
May-
before May 8th, the county doesn't
Right, May 8th
receive
is the
that
go
tax.
live on that, just to keep that in mind.
I sat through a webinar on May 15th for the same thing, and they kind of cleared some stuff up. There was a rumor that the contractor excise tax would be part of it. That is not. That is off the table, the 2% contractor excise tax. The applicant for the barn has to be the one driving it. They highly encourage them to contact GoEd first before they even start going through the conditional use process, because they don't want you to get too far down the road and then all of a sudden we're letting them know. But it has to be approved by that board up there in order to qualify. And essentially they sign over the money to the county, and we could buy coffee cups with it if we wanted to, or we can put it into roads,
They
so.
even had, as I recall, I said in the same webinar, they had a really short time frame on notifying the state.
Yeah, yeah, so you need to, this needs to
It had to
be,
be done within a week or 10 days.
yeah, so we need to actually start
They
getting
never
this.
mentioned that to us, so.
This needs to be incorporated in our planning and zoning office. So when someone comes in and says, I'm going to start doing this, that trigger needs to be pulled, that contact needs to be made, so.
Right.
And we can assign it wherever we wanted to. We could give it, part of it to the township if we wanted to. If it's on a township road, we could keep it all for ourselves and such like that, so.
And that was one thing that was important to me, that, you know, the dollars go to the counties. We can determine where they're spent. What cannot happen is a producer cannot leverage this contract and these dollars to better themselves. So if I want to put up a barn, I can't say I'll sign up for this program, but the county has to give me 20% of this. It cannot go back to the producers. It's for the county to spend and likely on infrastructure, so.
I also had a department head meeting on May 16th. One of the biggest concerns is we need to get going on this handbook. All the department heads mentioned that this handbook, we need to start working on that. And so I don't know if any of the commissioners, they wanted a commissioner representative. I don't know if anybody.
When is that?
Don, are you busy? Would you want to be on something like that?
Sure he is.
Or,
I mean, I'd be happy to volunteer, but what I
Okay.
would suggest is that we do it after budget, because we've got 3 new commissioners who've never been through budget before.
Well,
And
I've-
that's going to be our
yeah.
priority. So I think working behind the scenes a little bit, but I think the larger push would be July, August, September timeframe.
I would agree, and this was, the timeline I set with the department heads was about a 6-month
Yeah,
thing.
that's
And
reasonable.
what I would say is the department heads really want to take the lead on that, but they just want a commission representative there. And so I wouldn't envision that it's on that commissioner. I would imagine that they're just a liaison. So if you want to do that, I can, I'll,
If we do it in August or September,
sure.
Okay.
Okay, we could do that. You guys can arm wrestle over who gets that. I'll choose one of you. Another thing that was really concerning is I talked to Craig Miller about our cybersecurity. We all know Hutchinson County got hit by a major virus. They're shut down, writing paper checks. The school board got an attempted hack on them. I spoke with Craig Miller, and we're doing everything we can as the county. Nobody or no person or entity is ever 100% safe, but he's being very proactive, and I think that's excellent. So, also the June 8th Habitat for Humanity bill Taylor O'Brien spoke about that. So, anybody else have anything they'd like to discuss?
Town hall.
For update?
Oh, that's right. There will be a town hall meeting in Gayville at Mon Paz on this Thursday at 7:00 PM. Thursday, the 23rd.
It was in the paper
Yeah.
today,
Should be in
wasn't
the
it?
paper
It was
today.
in the paper today.
Okay, any other updates? All right, entertain next item would be item 20, on executive session due to litigation pursuant to South Dakota Codified Law, Section 1-25-2-3, and an executive session for personnel issue pursuant to South Dakota Codified Law, Section 1-25-2, subparagraph 1. I'd entertain a motion to go into executive session.
Go into executive session.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Is there further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? We're now in executive session.
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Back into regular session. No actions will be taken as a result of executive session. Next item on the agenda, items for next meeting.
I have a couple things. I'd like to, on our next meeting, have a short discussion on whether we want to start getting involved in the concept of developing a corridor, a road system in the county, because I think that's, if we're going to go that way, it's very important with all the bridges and everything that we've been talking about.
Exactly.
So I think we should talk about setting up a committee to work with that.
Just for a road system?
Yes, corridor road system. Corridor roads, primary corridor roads. And then I didn't want strategic planning to get forgotten.
Yeah, I need to get a hold of
So-
Greg on that.
So I
Yeah,
threw that back on and.
That's a good idea.
Kind of, I had written down HR person, but I still want to discuss that a
Okay,
bit.
okay.
At the same one, HR,
HR, yeah.
next
Human,
meeting?
yeah.
Gary, did you have anything for next meeting?
Not at this time.
Joe, Sherry, anything?
I
for
don't
next
believe
meeting?
so.
I had something I wanted to discuss. Doing some driving around this last weekend, I noticed 449th Street, and it had been, had gravel over it versus like 303rd Street, and I just want to talk about the possibility. I know the original plan had graveling these roads and grinding them, but I'm just wondering what cost savings we can do if we just gravelled it. And we have so much damage to our infrastructure this year. If we could save that grinding cost and put it toward maybe some bridges or some other, we can always come back and grind that. So I want a discussion on possibly changing that around and not grinding some of those roads.
Can we find out what that grinding cost
So
actually is?
16,000 a mile? Is that what I heard?
18,000.
18,000 a mile.
Oh, wow.
So, the thought is maybe switching that around, but we can discuss that at the next meeting. Anything else from anybody else? Entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
So moved.
Second.
Motion and a second. Further discussion. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?